This is a learning module designed at AIMS Rishikesh to teach residents regarding airway management in COVID patients. Severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, which causes COVID-19, is a single-stranded ribonucleic acid encapsulated coronavirus and is highly contagious. WHO has declared it as a pandemic and global health emergency. The most common symptoms of COVID-19 are high-grade fever, dry cough, sore throat, and tiredness. Other symptoms that are less common include aches and pain, nasal congestion, headache, conjunctivitis, diarrhea, breathing difficulty, loss of taste or smell, rash on the skin, or discoloration of fingers or toes. Transmission of COVID-19 is thought to be predominantly by droplet spread and direct contact with the patient or contaminated surface. Tracheal intubation is a potentially high-risk procedure for the airway manager, particularly as it risks the exposure to a high viral load, and if transmission occurs to healthcare workers, this may be associated with more severe illness. For this reason, airway managers should take appropriate precautions. According to statistics, 80% of the patients will recover on their own. Approximately 3.2 to 6% of patients with COVID-19 will require intubation and invasive ventilation at some point in the disease course. The need of intubation can arise in situation of cardiopulmonary arrest, lost airway, respiratory distress with respiratory rate more than 30 per minute, hypoxemia. Aerosol generating procedures, they create an increased risk of transmission of infection, and they include tracheal intubation, tracheostomy, front of neck access, non-invasive ventilation, and mask ventilation. Other potentially aerosol generating procedures, they include disconnection of any ventilator circuit during use, tracheal extubation, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, bronchoscopy, tracheal suctioning without the use of closed inline suction. The cardinal principles of airway management in a COVID patient include reduction of aerosolizing virus, reducing own personal exposure, and maximizing first success at intubation. Cardinal principle, that is reduction of virus spread. The most important aspects, they include hand hygiene, social distancing, that is keeping a distance of at least 2 meters, trying your best not to touch eyes, nose and mouth, cough etiquettes, seeking medical attention if symptomatic, and following the directions of your hospital authorities. Considering reduction of aerosolizing virus with respect to COVID-19, the most important things are donning and doffing of protective equipments and hand hygiene. This should be designated isolated negative pressure room, which should have a minimum of 12 air changes per hour. Doors should be self-closing. Room should be well sealed. And exhaust from the isolation room should be at least 25 feet from other ventilation intakes or occupied areas. Also, low oxygen flow helps reduce aerosolizing virus. It is recommended that the oxygen flow should be kept as low as possible and should be below 5 liters per minute. Rapid sequent COVID patient is required to avoid manual ventilation of patient's lungs and potential aerosolization of virus from the airways. Consider using video laryngoscope. RSI may also be modified if the patient has very high alveolar arterial gradient and is unable to tolerate 30 seconds of apnea. If at all manual ventilation is required, one should apply very small tidal volume breaths. Tight fitting mask is recommended so that there is no leakage. Positive pressure ventilation should only be instituted after the cuff has been inflated. Personal protective equipments, they form a part of a system to prevent contamination and infection of healthcare workers during patient care. General principles are that it should be simple to remove after use without contaminating the user, and complex systems should be avoided. It should cover the body appropriately and should be disposed of immediately after removal, process known as doffing. The various personal protective equipment required for airborne procedures include disposable hair cap, eye protection, N95 mask, fluid-resistant gowns, double gloves, and leg protection, boot covers to below the knees. For maximizing first attempt at success of intubation, we suggest that most appropriate intubator should manage the airway. This is to enable successful airway management that is safe, accurate, and swift. Pre-oxygenation also helps improve hypoxemia. One should also have the required airway equipments, and airway assessment should be done appropriately. We suggest using Makocha score, that is Mallampati class 3 or 4, obstructive sleep apnea, cervical spine motion limitation, mouth opening less than 3 centimeters, comatose patient, hypoxemia less than 80%, and non-anesthetic intubator. If combined score is more than 2, we should call for help and prepare for a difficult airway. Intubation kit should include appropriate size endotracheal tubes, oropharyngeal airways, closed suction catheters, HEPA filter, breathing circuits, video laryngoscope, tube clamp, tube fixation, syringe, supraglottic airway device, and FONA kit, that is front of neck access kit. Medication required for intubation in a COVID patient, they include the use of emergency drugs like adrenaline, atropine, succinylcholine, and mefentramin, induction agent either propofol, ketamine, or etomidate, and muscle relaxant, which are fast-acting, succinylcholine and rocuronium. Unless contraindicated, succinylcholine is agent of choice. Considering the induction agent, ketamine is recommended in hemodynamically unstable patient. Cardiostable etomidate is preferred for cardiac instability, and propofol should be used in guarded dosages to avoid induction-induced hypotension. Some patients may also require phenylephrine, ephedrine, epinephrine, labetalol, esmolol, nitroglycerin, metoprolol, antibiotics, opioids, and paralytics depending upon the need. Only drug which patients would require should be placed in the tray. Team dynamics. There should be clear delineation of roles. The primary plan and the rescue plans should be discussed, and there should be use of clear language and closed loop communication. Give simple instructions, speak clearly, and while receiving instructions, repeat what you have understood to the person who is speaking. Also, cross monitoring to avoid any contamination should be discussed. Airway plan, plan A, that is tracheal intubation, plan B or C, that is rescue oxygenation, and plan D, FONA, should be discussed beforehand. Inside the isolation area, the primary intubator, the airway assistant, and the drug taker, they wear full PPE and remain in the isolation area. The runner, that is the fourth person, remains outside. Ensure that all the necessary kits is present in the room before tracheal intubation takes place. The aim is to achieve airway management successfully at the first attempt. Regarding the intubation, after all the airway equipments have been placed in the tray, after all the drugs has been taken inside, allocation of role has been designed, patient positioning including ramp in the obese and reverse Trendelenburg should be adopted to maximize safe apnea time. A rapid sequence induction approach is followed after meticulous pre-oxygenation with a well-fitting mask for 3 to 5 minutes. A closed circuit is always optimal, and one should place a HEPA filter between the catheter mount and the circuit. Non-invasive ventilation should be avoided, and high-flow nasal oxygen is not recommended. If there is risk of cardiovascular instability, ketamine in the dosages 1 to 2 mg per kilogram is recommended for induction of anesthesia. Succinylcholine in the dosage of 1.5 mg per kilogram and rocuronium 1.2 mg per kilogram is required for neuromuscular blockade. This measures minimize the apnea time and the risk of patient coughing. After 60 seconds of full relaxation and ensuring full relaxation, tracheal intubation should be attempted. One may require a vasopressor or a bolus of fluid immediately for any management of hypotension. Laryngoscopy should be undertaken with the device most likely to achieve prompt first pass tracheal intubation in all circumstances in the operator's hand. Using a video laryngoscope with a separate screen enables the operator to stay further from the airway, and this technique is recommended for those trained in their use. If using a video laryngoscope with a Macintosh blade, a bougie may be used. If using a video laryngoscope with a hyperangulated blade, a stillet is required. If using a bougie or a stillet, be careful while removing so as to not spray secretions on the intubating team. Intubate with the appropriate size tracheal curved tube size 7 to 7.5 internal diameter in females and size 8 to 8.5 internal diameter in males. Use a tracheal tube with a subglottic suction port wherever possible. At tracheal intubation, place the tracheal tube without losing sight of it on the screen and pass the cuff 1 to 2 centimeters below the cords to avoid bronchial intubation. We suggest to clamp the endotracheal tube immediately after intubation and inflate the cuff with adequate air or a measured cuff pressure of 20 to 30 centimeters water. Secure the tracheal tube well and start mechanical ventilation only after cuff has been inflated well. Ensure there is no leak and confirm the tracheal intubation by a means of continuous wave capnograph. Watching for equal bilateral chest wall expansion with ventilation is recommended. Auscultation of the chest is difficult while wearing airborne precautions PPE and is likely to risk to contamination of the stethoscope and the staff, so it is not recommended. Use low flows at all times and pass a nasogastric tube after tracheal intubation is complete and ventilation is established. In cases of unexpected difficulty, all personnel should don full check PPE and plan for failure at each step. Consider minimizing number of attempts at each technique. Declare difficulty or failure to the team at each stage. First failure should call for help. Maximum attempts at tracheal intubation should be 3. Use only low flow, and in cases of failure, one should see the cause of failure. Bag mask ventilation may be used to assist ventilation and to prevent hypoxia if indicated. Use a Goodell's airway to maintain airway patency. Use two-handed, two-personal technique with VE grip, that is vice grip, to improve seal, particularly in obese patients. Mask ventilation may be deferred initially, and second generation supraglottic airway device may be used as alternative between attempts at laryngoscopy. This may reduce aerosol generation due to improved airway seal. Maximum 3 attempts each should be given at supraglottic airway device or face mask ventilation. At each stage, one should change device or the size or operator. In cases of failed plan A, B and C, we opt for plan D and call for help. Declare cannot intubate, cannot oxygenate, extend the neck and ensure neuromuscular blockade, exclude any oxygen and blocked circuit. New staff must don full checked PPE and most appropriate airway manager should perform front of neck access. Equipment required for front of neck access, they include scalpel, wide blade, bougie, appropriate size 14 French gaze, tube curved 5 to 6 mm internal diameter. In cases of palpable cricothyroid membrane, a transverse stab incision is given through cricothyroid membrane. Turn the blade through 90 degree, slide bougie along blade into trachea, railroad lubricated curved tube into trachea, clamp the tube, inflate the curve, ventilate and confirm position with capnography and then secure tube. In cases of impalpable cricothyroid membrane, make a large midline vertical incision, blunt dissection with fingers to separate tissues, identify and stabilize larynx, and proceed with the technique for palpable cricothyroid membrane. As in all cases, post-intubation, inflation of curve with appropriate amount of air should be done. Confirm tube with capnography and bilateral chest rise. Sequence of patient end followed by endotracheal tube followed by inline closed suction, HEPA filter and CO2 circuit should be done. Disconnect circuit after filter or clamp endotracheal tube at all points. Nasogastric tube has been inserted and aspirated. Only suction whenever necessary. All the dirty equipment should be placed in contaminated box, and doff and swab teams